Close your eyes for a moment and imagine this. Every time you've narrowly avoided an accident, survived an illness, or escaped what could have been your final moment, there might be another version of you that didn't. And here's the truly mind-bending part. According to one of the most controversial theories in quantum physics, the you that's listening right now might be the immortal one, seamlessly jumping between realities where death never quite catches up. This isn't science fiction. This is quantum immortality. And if it's true, you may have already died countless times without ever knowing it. Welcome back to another journey through the quiet mysteries of our universe. I'm here to guide you through one of the most fascinating and unsettling ideas to emerge from the strange world of quantum mechanics. Tonight, we're exploring a theory that challenges everything we think we know about life, death, and the nature of consciousness itself. Whether you're settling in for sleep or simply seeking a moment of contemplation, let this exploration wash over you like gentle waves on the shore of understanding. Before we dive deeper, I'd love to know where in the world you're listening from tonight. Are you tucked into bed in Tokyo as dawn approaches, or perhaps watching the sunset from your living room in Los Angeles? Wherever you are, you're part of this shared moment of wonder, this collective questioning of what it means to exist in a universe far stranger than our everyday experience suggests. If you find these explorations of science and consciousness meaningful, a gentle tap of the like button helps others discover these contemplative journeys. And if you're new here, consider subscribing for more peaceful expeditions into the deepest questions science has to offer. Now, settle in. Breathe slowly. Let your mind open to possibilities that stretch beyond the familiar boundaries of what we call reality. What I'm about to share with you isn't just another scientific theory. It's a lens through which the entire experience of being alive takes on new meaning. This is both an invitation to wonder and a challenge to everything you thought you knew about your own existence. To understand quantum immortality, we must first travel back to 1957 to a young physicist named Hugh Everett III working on his doctoral dissertation at Princeton University. Everett was grappling with one of the most perplexing puzzles in quantum mechanics. What actually happens when we observe a quantum system? The prevailing wisdom at the time suggested that the act of observation somehow collapsed multiple possibilities into a single reality, but Everett had a different, far more radical idea. What if nothing ever collapses? What if every possible outcome of every quantum event actually happens, just in different branches of reality? This was the birth of what we now call the many worlds interpretation, and it would lay the groundwork for one of the most extraordinary theories about consciousness and mortality ever proposed. Picture this. Imagine reality as an enormous tree, with branches splitting at every moment, where quantum uncertainty creates multiple possibilities. In one branch, a photon passes through a detector. In another, it doesn't. In one branch, an electron spins up. In another, it spins down. According to Everett's interpretation, all these branches are equally real, equally valid expressions of the universal wave function that describes everything that exists. But here's where it gets personal, where this abstract physics begins to touch the deepest questions of your own existence. If every quantum event creates branching realities, and if the biological processes that keep you alive depend on quantum mechanics at the molecular level, then every moment of your life represents a branching point between universes where you continue to exist and universes where you don't. Take a deep breath and consider this. The oxygen molecules entering your lungs right now, the electrical signals firing in your neurons, the chemical reactions sustaining your heartbeat. All of these processes involve quantum mechanical events. Each one represents a crossroads where the universe splits into multiple paths. In some branches, these processes continue normally. In others, they might falter in ways that could end your life. In the 1980s, physicist Hugh and Squires took Everett's many worlds idea to its logical and deeply unsettling conclusion. He became known for proposing a thought experiment later associated with the concept of quantum suicide, though I prefer to think of it as a philosophical exploration into subjective experience across parallel realities. Imagine, if you will, a device connected to a quantum system perhaps, an electron that can spin either up or down with equal probability. This device is programmed to end your life if the electron spins up, and to leave you unharmed if it spins down. In the classical world, you'd have a 50% chance of survival each time you activated this device. But in a many worlds universe, something extraordinary happens. Each time you activate the device, reality splits. In one branch, the electron spins up, the device activates, and a version ceases to exist. In another branch, the electron spins down, the device remains inactive, and the version of you that continues experiences ongoing consciousness. Now here's the crucial insight. You can only experience the branches where you remain conscious. The branches where you die become inaccessible to your continuing awareness. This isn't merely a philosophical curiosity. Some interpretations suggest that, from your subjective perspective, you would experience an increasingly improbable series of survivals. The device would seem to malfunction repeatedly, or external events would intervene to save you, not because the universe favours you, but because your consciousness can only follow the paths where it continues to exist. Let's explore this idea through a more visceral example, one that brings the abstract nature of quantum mechanics into stark relief against the reality of mortality. Imagine playing a quantum version of Russian roulette, where the firing mechanism of the gun is triggered by a truly random quantum event. In the traditional understanding, each pull of the trigger gives you a 1 in 6 chance of death. But if quantum immortality holds true, something remarkable happens from your perspective. Each time you pull the trigger, the universe branches into 2 primary paths, one where the gun fires and ends your life, and another where it doesn't fire and you continue to exist. Your consciousness, according to this theory, can only follow the branch where you survive. So from your subjective experience, the gun would never fire, no matter how many times you pulled the trigger. You might witness what appears to be an impossible string of misfires, mechanical failures, or miraculous interventions. Meanwhile, in countless other branches of reality, versions of you would have died, but those experiences would be forever cut off from your continuing awareness. This creates a deeply unsettling possibility that your entire life has been an impossible series of narrow escapes, quantum leaps between realities where death was avoided by increasingly unlikely margins. That car that almost hit you last year, the illness you recovered from unexpectedly, the plane turbulence that somehow didn't result in a crash. All of these might be evidence of your consciousness navigating between branches of reality, always landing in the timelines where you continue to exist. Pause for a moment and reflect on your own life. Think about the close calls, the moments when things could have gone very differently. That split-second decision that kept you from walking into traffic, the fever that broke just when it seemed most dangerous, the structural beam that didn't fall. In our everyday understanding, these are simply fortunate coincidences or the result of good judgment. But what if they represent something far more profound? What if each of these moments was a quantum crossroads, where your consciousness selected for survival among infinite possibilities? This remains unproven, of course, firmly in the realm of speculative physics rather than established science. But the implications are staggering to consider. To understand how quantum immortality might theoretically work, we need to examine the quantum nature of life itself. For decades, scientists assumed that quantum effects were too delicate to survive in the warm, wet environment of living organisms. But recent discoveries in quantum biology have revealed that nature has found ways to harness quantum mechanics for essential life processes. Consider photosynthesis, the process that converts sunlight into chemical energy in plants. Recent research has shown that plants achieve their remarkable efficiency by using quantum superposition to explore multiple pathways for energy transfer simultaneously. Instead of energy hopping randomly from molecule to molecule, it exists in a quantum state that allows it to find the most efficient path to the reaction center where photosynthesis occurs. This suggests that life itself is already deeply quantum mechanical. The processes that sustain your existence, from the electron transport chains in your mitochondria to the quantum tunneling events in enzyme reactions, all depend on quantum effects. If consciousness somehow interfaces with these quantum processes, then the branching nature of quantum reality might indeed affect the continuity of your subjective experience. This brings us to one of the most controversial ideas in modern science, the quantum theory of consciousness. In the 1990s, Nobel Prize-winning physicist Roger Penrose and anesthesiologist Stuart Hameroff proposed that consciousness might arise from quantum processes occurring within microtubules, tiny structures inside brain neurons. According to their theory, these microtubules can maintain quantum coherence long enough to perform quantum computations that give rise to conscious experience. While this idea remains highly speculative and lacks scientific consensus, recent experiments have provided intriguing hints that quantum effects might indeed play a role in brain function. Researchers have discovered that certain anesthetic drugs that bind to microtubules can alter quantum oscillations in these structures, and that these changes correlate with the onset of unconsciousness. This suggests, though doesn't prove, that quantum processes might be intimately connected to conscious awareness. If consciousness does emerge from quantum processes, then it might be subject to the same branching behavior that characterizes other quantum systems. This opens the theoretical possibility that consciousness itself could navigate between quantum branches, always following the paths where awareness continues. But quantum immortality, if it exists, comes with a profound psychological cost that reveals the theory's most haunting implications. If your consciousness truly does jump between realities to avoid the end of conscious experience, you would eventually face an increasingly lonely existence. While you continue to survive through quantum selection, there's no guarantee that your loved ones would follow the same improbable paths. Over time, you would find yourself in realities where friends and family members hadn't been quite so fortunate in their quantum lottery. The very mechanism that preserves your consciousness would gradually separate you from everyone you care about. Quantum immortality, in this view, isn't a gift, but a cosmic joke, a form of existence that becomes increasingly isolated and meaningless. This paradox reveals something profound about the nature of consciousness and connection. If we are truly quantum beings, then our relationships exist not just in the present moment, but across the branching possibilities of multiple realities. The love we share, the bonds we form, might themselves be quantum phenomena, entangled across the vast tree of possibility that defines our existence. Perhaps the most significant challenge to quantum immortality theory lies in the nature of death itself. The thought experiments that illustrate the concept, like quantum Russian roulette, assume that death is a binary event, an instantaneous transition from alive to not alive. But in reality, death is almost always a process, a gradual fading of consciousness and biological function. How would quantum immortality handle the slow decline of aging, the progressive loss of faculties, or the gradual shutdown of organ systems? These processes don't offer clean quantum branch points between life and death, but rather a continuum of decreasing consciousness and diminishing biological function. Some theorists suggest that quantum immortality would result not in eternal youth, but in an increasingly attenuated form of consciousness, stretched across realities where biological decay proceeds at different rates. You might find yourself in timelines where medical breakthroughs occur just in time to extend your life, or where your body ages more slowly due to subtle quantum differences in cellular processes. But this raises troubling questions about the nature of the consciousness that would persist. Would you remain fully yourself, or would you become something diminished, a fading echo of awareness distributed across increasingly improbable realities? Perhaps the most frustrating aspect of quantum immortality is that it's inherently untestable from an objective scientific standpoint. By definition, the theory deals with subjective experience across multiple realities. You can observe other people dying, but if quantum immortality is real, it's something you can only discover through your own continued existence. This makes quantum immortality more of a philosophical thought experiment than a testable scientific hypothesis. It belongs to that strange category of ideas that are logically consistent with our understanding of quantum mechanics, but forever beyond the reach of experimental verification. Yet this doesn't diminish its power as a lens for examining consciousness, mortality, and the nature of subjective experience. Whether or not quantum immortality is real, contemplating it reveals profound truths about how we understand ourselves and our place in the universe. As we pause here in our exploration, take a moment to breathe and reflect on the journey we've taken so far. We've travelled from the abstract mathematics of quantum mechanics to the most intimate questions of your own existence. We've explored how the strange behaviour of subatomic particles might connect to the deepest mysteries of consciousness and mortality. But our journey is far from over. In the next part of our exploration, we'll delve deeper into the implications of living in a quantum multiverse, examine the latest research on consciousness and quantum biology, and explore what quantum immortality might mean for how we choose to live our lives. We'll also investigate the profound philosophical questions this theory raises about identity, meaning, and the nature of reality itself. For now, though, let yourself sit with these ideas. Let them percolate through your consciousness like quantum possibilities exploring multiple paths simultaneously. And remember that whether or not you're already immortal in the quantum sense, this moment of wonder, this capacity to contemplate the deepest mysteries of existence, is itself a kind of miracle. As we continue our exploration of quantum immortality, we encounter perhaps the most psychologically challenging aspect of this theory. If it's true, then you are not alone in the universe. There are countless versions of you scattered across an infinite web of parallel realities, each living out slightly different variations of your life story. Some of these versions made different choices this morning. Others experienced different outcomes from the same decisions. And still others faced moments where their story ended while yours continued. This multiplicity of selves raises profound questions about identity and meaning. If there are infinite versions of you across the quantum multiverse, which one is the real you? The answer, according to quantum immortality theory, is both simple and unsettling. They all are. Every version experiencing consciousness is equally valid, equally real within their own branch of reality. Consider this. As you listen to these words, there might be another version of you in a nearby quantum branch who decided not to watch this video. Perhaps they went to sleep early, or chose to read a book instead, or never discovered this content at all. These alternate selves are living their own complete, authentic experiences, making their own decisions, forming their own memories. The implications ripple outward like waves in a quantum pond. If every possible version of your life is being lived somewhere in the multiverse, then concepts like regret, missed opportunities, and what-if scenarios take on new meaning. That job you didn't take, that person you didn't call, that risk you didn't pursue, somewhere in the branching pathways of reality, another version of you made those different choices. This brings us to one of the most fascinating aspects of quantum immortality: how memory and identity might persist across quantum branches. If consciousness can navigate between realities, what happens to the memories formed in previous branches? Do you carry with you the accumulated experiences of your quantum journey, or does each branch begin fresh? Some interpretations suggest that memory itself might be quantum mechanical in nature. The process of encoding, storing, and retrieving memories involves complex neurochemical reactions that depend on quantum tunneling, electron transport, and other quantum phenomena. If memories are indeed quantum structures, they might exhibit the same superposition and entanglement properties as other quantum systems. This could mean that your memory is not a simple recording of past events, but a quantum superposition of experiences from multiple branches of reality. Those moments of déjà vu, those dreams that feel more real than waking life, those intuitions about paths not taken, might be quantum echoes from other branches of your existence. Take a moment to reflect on your own memories. Notice how they sometimes feel uncertain, how details can shift or seem to exist in multiple versions simultaneously. Could this be evidence of quantum interference between memories from different branches? It's a speculative idea, certainly not proven by current science, but it offers a fascinating lens through which to examine the fluid nature of personal history. If quantum immortality is real, then consciousness becomes something like an observatory, a focal point of awareness that samples experiences from across the quantum multiverse. But this raises a crucial question. What determines which branch your consciousness follows? Is it purely random, or is there some deeper principle at work? Some theorists propose that consciousness might naturally gravitate toward branches with maximum information content or complexity. In this view, your awareness doesn't just seek survival, but seeks rich, meaningful experiences. This could explain why your quantum journey might not just avoid death, but actively select for interesting, growth-oriented realities. Imagine consciousness as a kind of quantum surfer, riding the waves of possibility toward experiences that offer the greatest potential for learning, connection, and understanding. This isn't to suggest that you consciously control which branch you follow, but rather that consciousness itself might have an inherent tendency toward complexity and meaning. This interpretation transforms quantum immortality from a mere survival mechanism into something more profound, a cosmic process by which consciousness explores the full spectrum of possible experiences. Every challenge you face, every joy you experience, every moment of growth becomes part of a vast quantum experiment in what it means to be aware. One of the most intriguing possibilities raised by quantum immortality involves quantum entanglement between consciousness across different branches. In quantum mechanics, entangled particles remain connected regardless of the distance separating them. Could consciousness exhibit similar non-local connections across parallel realities? This speculative idea suggests that all versions of your consciousness might be subtly entangled, sharing information in ways that transcend the boundaries between quantum branches. Those moments of sudden insight, creative inspiration, or intuitive knowing might represent entangled communication between different versions of yourself across the multiverse. Of course, this remains firmly in the realm of speculation, with no scientific consensus or empirical evidence. But it offers a compelling framework for understanding experiences that seem to transcend ordinary causation. That song that gets stuck in your head for no apparent reason, that name that comes to mind just before you encounter that person, that solution to a problem that arrives fully formed in your consciousness. Could these be quantum messages from alternate versions of yourself? If quantum immortality is real, it raises profound ethical questions about how we should live. If every possible choice creates branching realities, and if all versions of yourself are equally real, then our traditional understanding of moral responsibility becomes more complex. Consider a simple moral choice, whether to help a stranger in need. In a quantum multiverse, every possible response to the situation plays out across different branches. In some realities, you offer assistance, in others, you pass by. The question becomes, do you bear moral responsibility for the actions of all your quantum selves, or only for the version you're consciously experiencing? Some philosophers argue that quantum immortality actually increases our moral responsibility. If all versions of yourself are real, then creating branches where you act with kindness and compassion becomes a way of literally making the multiverse a better place. Each ethical choice doesn't just affect your local reality, but contributes to the overall moral character of the quantum ensemble that constitutes your total existence. This perspective transforms every decision into a cosmic act of creation. When you choose compassion over indifference, courage over fear, truth over deception, you're not just shaping your personal reality, but adding branches of goodness to the infinite tree of possibility that represents your quantum existence. To understand how consciousness might theoretically navigate quantum branches, we need to examine recent breakthroughs in quantum biology. Scientists have discovered that living systems can maintain quantum coherence far longer than previously thought possible, even in the warm, noisy environment of biological tissue. Research on quantum coherence in photosynthetic systems has revealed that plants can maintain quantum superposition for hundreds of femtoseconds, long enough to explore multiple energy pathways simultaneously. This quantum exploration allows plants to find the most efficient route for energy transfer with remarkable precision. Similar quantum coherence has been discovered in other biological systems. Some birds appear to use quantum entanglement in their navigation systems, with entangled electron pairs in their retinas potentially serving as biological compass needles that align with Earth's magnetic field. Even the sense of smell might involve quantum tunneling, with odorant molecules creating specific quantum vibrations that our olfactory system can detect. These discoveries suggest that life has evolved sophisticated mechanisms for harnessing quantum effects despite environmental decoherence. If consciousness emerges from biological processes, it might inherit these same quantum properties, potentially allowing awareness to maintain coherence across quantum branches. The most direct scientific investigation of quantum consciousness focuses on microtubules, tiny protein structures found within neurons. These hollow cylindrical structures, originally thought to simply provide structural support for cells, may actually serve as quantum information processing systems within the brain. Recent experiments have provided intriguing evidence for this quantum brain hypothesis. Researchers have found that anesthetic drugs that bind specifically to microtubules can disrupt quantum oscillations in these structures. More remarkably, the potency of different anesthetics correlates directly with their ability to dampen these quantum vibrations. This suggests that consciousness might indeed depend on quantum processes occurring within microtubules. When anesthetics disrupt these quantum oscillations, consciousness fades. When the quantum vibrations resume, awareness returns. While this doesn't prove that consciousness can navigate quantum branches, it does suggest that awareness itself might be fundamentally quantum mechanical in nature. The implications are staggering. If consciousness arises from quantum processes in microtubules, then it might be subject to the same superposition, entanglement, and branching behaviors that characterize other quantum systems. This opens the theoretical possibility that consciousness could exist in multiple states simultaneously, potentially explaining how awareness might persist across quantum branches. One of the most mysterious aspects of quantum mechanics is the observer effect, the idea that the act of observation appears to influence quantum systems. While this doesn't mean that consciousness creates reality, it does suggest a deep connection between awareness and the quantum world. In the context of quantum immortality, this raises fascinating questions about the role of consciousness in selecting which quantum branch to follow. Could the act of being aware somehow influence which possibilities become actualized in your subjective experience? This remains highly speculative, with no scientific consensus on the role of consciousness in quantum mechanics. But it offers an intriguing framework for understanding the relationship between awareness and reality. If consciousness does play a role in quantum observation, then your very awareness might be part of the mechanism that guides your path through the quantum multiverse. Consider how your attention shapes your daily experience. The things you focus on seem to become more prominent in your life. Opportunities you notice tend to multiply. People you think about often appear unexpectedly. While this could be simple confirmation bias, it might also reflect a deeper connection between consciousness and the quantum structure of reality. But perhaps the value of quantum immortality lies not in its literal truth, but in how it transforms our relationship with existence itself. Whether or not we are quantum beings hopping between realities, the theory invites us to consider the profound interconnectedness of consciousness, choice, and possibility. It suggests that every moment of awareness is precious, not just because life is finite, but because consciousness itself might be the universe's way of exploring its own infinite potential. Through your awareness, through your choices, through your very existence, the cosmos comes to know itself in ways that would be impossible without consciousness. This perspective transforms the mundane into the miraculous. That cup of tea you're sipping, the breath moving through your lungs, the thoughts arising and passing in your mind. All of these become expressions of the universe's quantum nature, possibilities selected from an infinite array of alternatives. Perhaps most remarkably, quantum immortality offers a unique form of comfort in the face of mortality and loss. If the theory is correct, then death is not an ending, but a kind of quantum editing, a pruning of the tree of possibility that leaves consciousness intact in other branches. This doesn't diminish the reality of grief or the poignancy of loss in our subjective experience. When someone we love dies in our reality, that loss is real and meaningful within our branch of existence. But quantum immortality suggests that somewhere in the vast multiverse, other versions of our loved ones continue their journey, exploring different possibilities, living out alternative stories. In this view, love itself becomes a quantum phenomenon, a form of entanglement that connects consciousness across the boundaries of individual existence. The bonds we form, the connections we cherish, might persist in ways that transcend the apparent finality of death. As you sit with these ideas, breathing slowly and letting them settle into your awareness like sediment in still water, remember that the greatest gift of quantum immortality theory is not the promise of literal immortality. It's the invitation to see your existence as part of something infinitely larger and more wondrous than you ever imagined. Whether consciousness navigates quantum branches or not, you're already participating in the universe's greatest experiment, the emergence of awareness from matter, the flowering of subjective experience from objective reality, the cosmic process by which existence comes to know itself through your eyes, your thoughts, your very being. But perhaps the most profound implication of quantum immortality isn't what it says about death, but what it reveals about choice itself. If consciousness truly navigates between quantum branches, then every decision you make becomes an act of cosmic selection, a moment where you literally choose which version of reality to inhabit. Think about the choices you made today. That decision to take a different route to work, to call an old friend, to pause and watch the sunset. In our everyday understanding, these are simply personal preferences playing out in a single timeline. But through the lens of quantum immortality, each choice represents a branching point, where you selected one path among infinite possibilities. Some interpretations suggest that consciousness doesn't just passively experience whichever branch it finds itself in, but actively participates in the selection process. Not through deliberate control, but through something more subtle, a quantum resonance between awareness and possibility that draws consciousness toward experiences aligned with its deepest nature. This isn't to suggest that you consciously manifest your reality through positive thinking, a concept that lacks scientific support. Rather, it points towards something far more nuanced, the possibility that consciousness and quantum reality share a fundamental affinity, a kind of cosmic compatibility that influences which paths through the multiverse feel most natural to follow. As you contemplate these ideas, you might find yourself wondering about the nature of memory in a quantum multiverse. If multiple versions of your life are unfolding simultaneously across different branches, do these experiences somehow bleed through into your awareness? Recent research in neuroscience has revealed that memory is far more fluid and reconstructive than we once believed. Each time you recall an experience, your brain doesn't simply retrieve a static file, but actively rebuilds the memory, often incorporating new information and perspectives. This reconstructive process might be more than just a quirk of neural architecture. It could be a window into the quantum nature of consciousness itself. Consider those moments when a memory feels somehow larger than the experience that created it, when recalling a simple conversation carries emotional weight that seems disproportionate to what actually happened. Could these be instances where your awareness is accessing not just the memory from your current branch, but quantum echoes from similar experiences across multiple realities? This remains purely speculative, of course, with no scientific evidence to support such ideas, but it offers a fascinating lens through which to examine the mysterious nature of personal history and the stories we tell ourselves about who we are. Dreams, too, take on new significance when viewed through the quantum immortality framework. Those vivid nocturnal narratives where you live completely different lives, where you possess knowledge you've never acquired, where you navigate landscapes that feel familiar despite being impossible. Might they be more than random neural firings during sleep? Some interpretations suggest that during dream states, when the brain's normal filtering mechanisms are relaxed, consciousness might gain access to experiences from adjacent quantum branches. The businessman who dreams of being an artist, the parent who dreams of a childless life, the city dweller who dreams of rural solitude. These nocturnal journeys might represent glimpses into the lives being lived by alternate versions of themselves. While there's no scientific consensus supporting this idea, it aligns intriguingly with the phenomenology of dreaming. Dreams often feel simultaneously foreign and familiar, as if we're remembering experiences we've never had. They provide access to knowledge and skills our waking minds don't possess, and they sometimes offer solutions to problems we haven't consciously been working on. Whether dreams are quantum windows or simply the brain's way of processing information, they remind us that consciousness is far more fluid and mysterious than our waking experience suggests. In the quiet theatre of sleep, awareness explores territories that daylight logic can't explain. If quantum immortality theory holds any truth, then presence itself becomes a kind of spiritual practice, a way of fully inhabiting whichever branch of reality consciousness has selected. Each moment of mindful awareness becomes an affirmation of this particular path through the infinite maze of possibility. This perspective transforms meditation from a personal wellness practice into something more cosmic. When you sit quietly and observe your breath, when you notice thoughts arising and passing without attachment, when you rest in the simple fact of being aware, you might be participating in the universe's own process of self-observation across quantum branches. Take a moment now to notice your own awareness. Feel the weight of your body, the rhythm of your breathing, the subtle sensations that confirm your presence in this particular reality. In a quantum multiverse, this exact configuration of experience, this precise moment of consciousness, represents one path among infinite possibilities, selected somehow from the vast tree of potential that defines your existence. Whether this selection happens randomly or through some deeper principle we don't yet understand, the fact remains remarkable. Out of all possible experiences available to consciousness, you are having this one, right now, in this moment. There's something almost miraculous about the specificity of present moment awareness in a universe of infinite possibility. Earlier, we explored how quantum immortality might lead to increasing isolation as your consciousness follows survival paths that others don't share. But there's another way to understand this apparent loneliness, one that transforms isolation into a kind of cosmic responsibility. If you are indeed navigating quantum branches toward realities where consciousness persists, then you become something like a steward of awareness itself. Your continued existence isn't just personal survival, but the preservation of a particular perspective, a unique way of experiencing reality that adds to the universe's total catalogue of possible experiences. This view suggests that consciousness isn't just along for the ride in the quantum multiverse, but serves an essential function: the universe's way of knowing itself through subjective experience. Every moment of awareness, every thought you think, every emotion you feel becomes delta in the cosmic experiment of existence coming to understand its own nature. The apparent loneliness of quantum immortality might thus be reframed as a kind of cosmic solitude, similar to what mystics and contemplatives have described throughout history. It's the aloneness of being the only one who can have your particular experience, combined with the profound connection that comes from recognizing your awareness as part of the universe's own self-discovery. This brings us to a fascinating ethical dimension of quantum immortality theory. If every possible version of your life is being lived across the multiverse, what does this mean for moral responsibility and personal growth? One interpretation suggests that quantum immortality actually amplifies the significance of ethical choices. If your decisions create branching realities, then choosing kindness over cruelty, courage over fear, truth over deception doesn't just affect your local timeline, but literally creates more goodness in the total sum of existence. Each ethical choice becomes an act of cosmic creation, a way of ensuring that, among the infinite versions of yourself, more of them embody the qualities you most value. This isn't about personal salvation or reward, but about contributing to the moral fabric of the multiverse itself. Consider how this might change your approach to difficult decisions. That moment of choosing whether to speak truth in a challenging situation, whether to extend forgiveness when you've been hurt, whether to act with compassion when it would be easier to remain indifferent, these choices take on new weight when viewed as contributions to the quantum ensemble of all possible selves. This perspective doesn't diminish the importance of consequences in your current reality. It simply adds another layer of meaning to moral action. You act ethically, not just because it creates better outcomes in this branch of reality, but because it literally creates better versions of existence across the entire spectrum of possibility. As we approach the edge of current scientific understanding, it's important to acknowledge the vast territory that remains unexplored. Quantum immortality theory operates at the intersection of quantum mechanics, consciousness studies, and philosophy of mind, three fields that are themselves filled with unsolved mysteries. Recent advances in quantum biology continue to reveal how life harnesses quantum effects in ways previously thought impossible. Plants using quantum coherence in photosynthesis, birds navigating by quantum entanglement, potentially even our sense of smell relying on quantum tunneling. These discoveries suggest that the boundary between the quantum world and biological reality is far more porous than we once believed these findings. But transal into theories about consciousness and survival across parallel realities requires enormous leaps that current science cannot support. The gap between demonstrating quantum effects in biological systems and proving that consciousness can navigate between quantum branches remains vast and may always remain so. This uncertainty isn't a weakness of the theory, but perhaps its greatest strength. Quantum immortality exists in that liminal space where science meets philosophy, where rigorous thinking encounters the deepest mysteries of existence. It serves as an invitation to hold multiple possibilities simultaneously, to remain curious about questions that may never have definitive answers. Take a breath now and notice how these concepts settle in your awareness. You don't need to believe in quantum immortality for it to serve its purpose as a lens for examining consciousness, choice, and the nature of subjective experience. Whether consciousness navigates quantum branches or not, you are already participating in something extraordinary. The emergence of awareness from matter, the universe coming to know itself through your eyes. The theory offers a unique perspective on what it means to be alive in an uncertain universe. It suggests that consciousness itself might be more resilient, more fundamental, more intricately woven into the fabric of reality than our everyday experience suggests. This doesn't promise literal immortality, but it does point toward the profound mystery of awareness itself. Whether you find comfort or unease in these ideas, whether they spark wonder or skepticism, they serve their purpose by expanding the horizon of possibility. They invite you to consider that your existence might be far more significant, far more connected to the cosmic order than you ever imagined. But what does any of this mean for how you actually live your life? If quantum immortality remains unproven and potentially unprovable, does contemplating it offer any practical wisdom for navigating everyday reality? Some would argue that quantum immortality theory, whether true or not, encourages a particular orientation toward existence. It suggests approaching life with a sense of cosmic responsibility, recognizing that your choices and awareness might have implications beyond what you can directly observe. This might translate into greater mindfulness in decision-making, not because you're trying to control which quantum branch you follow, but because every choice contributes to the total story of consciousness exploring reality. It might encourage deeper presence in each moment, recognizing that this specific configuration of experience represents something unique and unrepeatable in the vast space of possibility. Most importantly, it might foster a kind of existential humility, a recognition that consciousness and reality are far stranger and more wonderful than our ordinary understanding suggests. This humility can become a doorway to wonder, a reminder that every moment of awareness occurs against a backdrop of mystery that science is only beginning to explore. This question pushes quantum immortality theory to its ultimate limit. Some interpretations suggest that consciousness might find ways to persist even in universes heading toward heat death, perhaps by finding increasingly unlikely pockets of structure and energy. Others propose that consciousness itself might be fundamental enough to reality that it could survive even the end of physical existence. These remain purely speculative ideas, far beyond anything current science can address. But they highlight the profound questions that quantum immortality raises about the relationship between consciousness and the cosmos. They suggest that awareness itself might be a more fundamental feature of reality than the physical structures that seem to support it. But perhaps the value lies not in solving these mysteries, but in living with them, in allowing them to expand your sense of what's possible, to deepen your appreciation for the profound strangeness of existence itself. You are, at minimum, a temporary arrangement of matter that has somehow become aware of itself, capable of contemplating the deepest questions the universe has to offer. That alone is miraculous enough to warrant wonder, regardless of whether quantum immortality proves true or false. The fact that you can consider these ideas, that consciousness has evolved to the point where it can examine its own nature and contemplate its relationship to the quantum structure of reality represents an achievement of cosmic proportions. So whether you are quantum immortal or beautifully, poignantly mortal, whether your consciousness will navigate eternal branches of possibility or simply return to the elements from which it arose, this moment of awareness, this capacity for wonder, this ability to reach across the vastness of space and time to touch the deepest truths the universe has to offer. This is already more than enough. As we venture deeper into the quantum labyrinth of consciousness and choice, we encounter perhaps the most personally unsettling aspect of quantum immortality: the mirror effect. Every decision you've ever made, every path you've chosen, every moment where you turned left instead of right creates ripples across the quantum multiverse. But here's what keeps philosophers awake at night. If quantum immortality is true, then somewhere in the vast expanse of parallel realities, there exists a version of you who made every opposite choice you've ever made. This isn't merely an abstract thought experiment. Consider the weight of this possibility as you reflect on your own life story. That career path you abandoned, that relationship you ended, that risk you didn't take. In the quantum multiverse framework, other versions of yourself are living out those alternative narratives right now. They're experiencing the consequences of choices you decided against, learning lessons from paths you'll never walk, loving people you'll never meet. Some interpretations suggest that consciousness doesn't just passively experience one branch of this infinite decision tree, but somehow samples experiences across multiple realities. This could explain those moments of inexplicable nostalgia for places you've never been, the feeling of missing someone you've never met, or the strange familiarity of experiences that should be entirely new. Take a gentle breath here and consider your own moments of unexplained recognition. Have you ever walked into a room and felt you'd been there before, not through déjà vu, but through something deeper? Have you ever met someone and felt an instant connection that seemed to transcend the boundaries of your shared history? These experiences, while having many possible explanations, take on new resonance when viewed through the lens of quantum consciousness. But if consciousness truly navigates between quantum branches, what determines the path it follows? This question has occupied theoretical physicists and philosophers of mind for decades, leading to some fascinating, if highly speculative, proposals about the architecture of quantum decision-making. One intriguing possibility involves what researchers call quantum coherence in neural microtubules. These tiny protein structures within brain neurons might maintain quantum states long enough to influence the decision-making process. While this remains highly speculative and lacks scientific consensus, it suggests a mechanism by which consciousness might interface with quantum reality at the most fundamental level. The implications are staggering to contemplate. If decision-making involves quantum processes, then every choice you make might literally split reality into multiple branches. Your consciousness doesn't just select from pre-existing options, but actively participates in creating the very alternatives it chooses between. This transforms decision-making from a passive selection process into an active collaboration with the quantum structure of reality itself. Recent research in neuroscience has revealed that decision-making involves complex networks of neural activity that build toward a threshold before conscious choice emerges. Some interpretations suggest that during this build-up phase, the brain might exist in a quantum superposition of multiple decision states, collapsing into a specific choice only when the threshold is reached. This would mean that the moment before you make any decision, your brain literally contains multiple possible futures in quantum superposition. The choice doesn't just select which future to pursue, it determines which version of that future-creating process becomes real in your subjective experience. As you sit with these ideas, you might find yourself looking back at your life with new eyes. Every pivotal moment, every crucial decision, every turning point in your personal story might represent a quantum branching event where your consciousness selected one path among infinite possibilities. That job interview that went surprisingly well, the chance encounter that led to a lasting friendship, the split-second decision that avoided an accident. Through the lens of quantum immortality, these might not be random events, but evidence of consciousness navigating toward realities that support its continued existence and growth. This doesn't imply that you consciously control these outcomes, a concept that lacks scientific support. Rather, it suggests something more subtle, that consciousness and quantum reality might share a fundamental compatibility that influences which paths through the multiverse feel most natural to follow. Consider the story of your own life as you understand it now. Notice how certain events seem to have led inevitably to others, how apparent coincidences created opportunities, how obstacles that seemed insurmountable at the time ultimately redirected you toward unexpected growth. While these patterns could certainly be explained by psychological tendencies to find meaning in randomness, they also align intriguingly with the idea of consciousness following quantum paths toward meaningful experience. Perhaps nowhere is the mystery of quantum immortality more poignant than in the realm of human relationships. If consciousness truly navigates between quantum branches, what happens to the bonds we form with others? Do the people we love follow similar paths through the multiverse, or do we risk losing them as we jump between realities? Some speculative interpretations suggest that deep emotional connections might create a kind of quantum entanglement between conscious beings. This remains purely theoretical, with no scientific evidence to support such ideas, but it offers a fascinating framework for understanding the mysterious synchronicities that occur in close relationships. You've probably experienced moments where you thought of someone just before they called, where you shared dreams or simultaneous insights with a loved one, where you felt their presence even when separated by great distances. While these experiences can be explained through conventional psychology and coincidence, they take on new significance when viewed through the possibility of quantum entangled consciousness. If relationships do create quantum entanglement between conscious beings, it might explain why love feels so fundamental to human experience. Love wouldn't just be an emotional bond, but an actual quantum connection that transcends the boundaries of individual awareness. The grief we feel when we lose someone close might reflect not just the absence of their physical presence, but the breaking of quantum entanglement that connected our consciousness to theirs. This interpretation transforms every relationship into a kind of cosmic collaboration, a shared exploration of quantum possibility space. The conversations you have, the experiences you share, the love you express all become part of a larger quantum experiment in how consciousness can connect across the apparent boundaries of individual existence. One of the most mysterious aspects of quantum mechanics is the observer effect, the apparent influence of measurement on quantum systems. While this doesn't mean consciousness creates reality in any direct sense, it does suggest a deep connection between awareness and the quantum world that might have implications for how we experience our personal reality. In the context of quantum immortality, this raises fascinating questions about the role of attention in selecting which quantum branch consciousness follows? Could the very act of observing your life, of paying attention to certain possibilities while ignoring others, somehow influence which path through the multiverse becomes actualized in your experience? This remains highly speculative, with no scientific consensus on any direct role of consciousness in quantum mechanics. But it aligns intriguingly with contemplative traditions that emphasize the importance of mindful awareness in shaping experience. Whether through quantum effects or more conventional psychological mechanisms, what you pay attention to does seem to become more prominent in your life. Notice, as you listen to these words, how your attention shapes this very moment. The background sounds that were invisible become audible when you focus on them. The physical sensations that were unconscious become apparent when you direct awareness toward them. The thoughts that were automatic become observable when you turn the spotlight of consciousness upon them. In a quantum multiverse, this focusing of attention might be more than just a subjective filtering process. It might represent consciousness actively participating in the selection of which reality branch to inhabit. Not through willful manipulation, but through the natural affinity between awareness and possibility that quantum immortality theory suggests. This brings us to one of the most philosophically challenging aspects of quantum immortality, its implications for free will. If consciousness navigates between quantum branches based on quantum mechanical processes, do we truly make choices? Or are we simply experiencing the subjective illusion of choice as quantum events unfold? The answer, like so much in quantum mechanics, seems to exist in a superposition of possibilities. On one hand, if our decisions emerge from quantum processes in the brain, they might be fundamentally random rather than freely chosen. On the other hand, if consciousness can somehow influence which quantum branch it follows, we might have a kind of quantum free will that transcends the classical debate between determinism and randomness. Some interpretations suggest that free will in a quantum multiverse isn't about controlling outcomes, but about participating in the creative process, by which reality explores its own possibilities. Every choice you make doesn't just select from existing options, but helps create new branches of possibility that didn't exist before your decision. This view transforms free will from a burden of total responsibility into something more like cosmic collaboration. You're not solely responsible for creating your reality, but you are a conscious participant in the universe's ongoing experiment in what kinds of experiences are possible. Take a moment to reflect on a recent decision you've made, perhaps something as simple as what to have for breakfast or which route to take to work. In a quantum multiverse, that choice might have literally created new branches of reality, new possibilities for how your day could unfold, new versions of yourself exploring alternative paths through the space of possibility. If quantum immortality theory holds any truth, then present moment awareness takes on profound cosmic significance. Each moment of conscious presence might represent a unique sampling of the infinite possibilities available in quantum reality. Meditation, in this view, becomes more than personal wellness practice. It becomes a form of quantum exploration. When you sit quietly and observe your breath, when you notice thoughts arising and passing without attachment, when you rest in the simple fact of being aware, you might be participating in consciousness's fundamental function, observing and thereby helping to actualize specific possibilities from the quantum field of potential. This doesn't mean meditation controls quantum outcomes, a claim that lacks scientific support. Rather, It suggests that the quality of awareness itself might be the universe's way of exploring what kinds of conscious experience are possible. Every moment of mindful presence adds to the cosmic catalogue of awareness, contributing to the universe's ongoing project of coming to know itself. Try this now. Close your eyes gently and take 3 slow breaths. Notice how awareness seems to exist larger in a space than your individual thoughts and sensations. That spacious quality of consciousness might be a glimpse into its quantum nature, its ability to exist in superposition across multiple possibilities until the moment of observation collapses experience into specific forms. When you open your eyes, notice how the act of observing seems to solidify the world around you. The quantum mechanical interpretation would suggest that your observation doesn't just reveal pre-existing reality, but participates in its actualization from a field of quantum possibilities. As our exploration deepens, we encounter perhaps the most challenging implication of quantum immortality theory. If every possible version of your life is being lived across the multiverse, what does this mean for moral responsibility and ethical action? Traditional ethics assumes a single timeline where your choices have specific consequences for yourself and others. But in a quantum multiverse where all possibilities are actualized, the framework becomes more complex. Do you bear responsibility for the actions of all your quantum selves, or only for the version you're consciously experiencing? Some philosophers argue that quantum immortality actually amplifies rather than diminishes moral responsibility. If your choices literally create branching realities, then every ethical decision contributes to the total moral character of the multiverse. Choosing compassion over cruelty doesn't just affect your local reality, but creates more branches where goodness exists. This perspective transforms every moral choice into an act of cosmic creation. When you decide to help a stranger, to speak truth in a difficult situation, to extend forgiveness when you've been hurt, you're not just affecting immediate outcomes, but literally adding more kindness, truth, and forgiveness to the total sum of existence across all quantum branches. Consider how this might change your approach to daily ethical decisions. That moment of choosing patience over irritation with a difficult colleague, that decision to recycle rather than throw something away, that choice to listen deeply rather than wait for your turn to speak. In a quantum multiverse, these small acts of consciousness become contributions to the moral fabric of reality itself. Earlier, we explored how quantum immortality might lead to increasing isolation as consciousness follows survival paths that others don't share. But there's another way to understand this apparent loneliness, one that transforms solitude into a form of cosmic service. If consciousness truly navigates quantum branches, then your continued awareness serves a function larger than personal survival. You become a witness, a point of observation through which the universe comes to know specific aspects of its own nature. Every experience you have, every emotion you feel, every insight you gain becomes data in the cosmic experiment of existence exploring its own possibilities. This reframes the supposed loneliness of quantum immortality as a kind of sacred solitude, similar to what mystics and contemplatives have described throughout history. It's the aloneness of being uniquely positioned to have your particular experience, combined with the profound connection that comes from recognizing your awareness as part of the universe's own self-discovery. In quiet moments of reflection, you might touch this cosmic dimension of consciousness. When you feel deeply moved by beauty, when you experience awe at the vastness of the night sky, when you feel love that seems larger than your individual heart. These might be glimpses of consciousness recognizing its cosmic function as the universe's way of experiencing itself. As we approach the boundaries of current scientific understanding, it's worth examining how quantum effects in biological systems might provide a foundation for consciousness's alleged ability to navigate quantum branches. Recent discoveries in quantum biology continue to reveal sophisticated quantum phenomena in living systems, suggesting that life and quantum mechanics are more intimately connected than previously imagined. Research has shown that quantum coherence plays a crucial role in photosynthesis, allowing plants to achieve remarkable efficiency in energy transfer by exploring multiple pathways simultaneously. Similar quantum effects have been discovered in bird navigation, where quantum entanglement might help create biological compass systems, and possibly even in human olfaction, where quantum tunneling might explain how we distinguish between molecules with identical shapes but different vibrational frequencies. These findings suggest that biological systems have evolved sophisticated mechanisms for maintaining quantum coherence despite the warm, noisy environment of living tissue. If consciousness emerges from biological processes, it might inherit these same quantum properties, potentially explaining how awareness could theoretically maintain coherence across quantum branches. The discovery of quantum vibrations in neural microtubules provides the most direct evidence for quantum processes in the brain. When anesthetic drugs bind to these structures and disrupt their quantum oscillations, consciousness fades. When the oscillations resume, awareness returns. While this doesn't prove consciousness can navigate quantum branches, it does suggest that awareness itself might be fundamentally quantum mechanical in nature. But what does quantum immortality theory offer for how you actually live your daily life? Even if the theory remains unproven and potentially unprovable, does contemplating it provide any practical guidance for navigating ordinary reality? The answer might lie not in literal belief, but in the orientation toward existence that quantum immortality encourages. Whether consciousness navigates quantum branches or not, the theory invites a particular approach to living, one characterized by deep presence, ethical responsibility, and recognition of the profound mystery underlying ordinary experience. This might translate into greater mindfulness in daily activities, not because you're trying to control quantum outcomes, but because every moment of awareness contributes to the universe's ongoing exploration of what conscious experience can be. It might encourage more thoughtful decision-making, recognizing that choices have implications beyond what you can directly observe. Most importantly, quantum immortality theory fosters what we might call existential humility, a recognition that consciousness and reality are far stranger and more wonderful than our everyday understanding suggests. This humility can become a doorway to wonder, transforming routine experiences into opportunities for awe and connection. As you go about your day, notice how this perspective might shift your experience. That conversation with a cashier becomes a unique moment in the cosmic exploration of human connection. That decision about whether to take an umbrella becomes a small participation in the universe's navigation of infinite possibilities. That moment of appreciating a sunset becomes consciousness recognizing beauty as a fundamental feature of reality. As we near the completion of our journey through quantum immortality theory, one profound question remains. If consciousness does navigate between quantum branches, always landing in realities where awareness continues, What is the ultimate purpose of this cosmic game of survival? Some interpretations suggest that consciousness serves as the universe's memory system, a way for reality to retain information about its own exploration of possibility. Every experience you have, every insight you gain, every moment of awareness becomes part of an ever-growing library of what existence can be and mean. In this view, your life isn't just a personal story, but a chapter in the universe's autobiography, a unique perspective on what it's like to be conscious in a reality governed by quantum mechanical principles. The joys and sorrows, the mundane moments and peak experiences all become valuable data in the cosmic experiment of consciousness exploring its own nature. This doesn't diminish the personal significance of your individual story. Rather, it suggests that your personal experience and cosmic purpose are intimately connected. By living fully, by paying attention deeply, by choosing compassion and truth and beauty whenever possible, you're not just creating a meaningful life for yourself, but contributing to the universe's understanding of its own potential for meaning. Take a moment to appreciate the profound privilege this represents. Whether quantum immortality is literally true or metaphorically useful, you are participating in something extraordinary. The universe coming to know itself through conscious experience. Your awareness, your capacity for wonder, your ability to contemplate these very ideas represents an achievement of cosmic proportions. This recognition invites a kind of quantum surrender, not passive resignation, but active embrace of uncertainty as the natural condition of conscious existence. In quantum mechanics, particles exist in superposition until observed. Perhaps consciousness, too, naturally exists in a state of open possibility until it crystallizes into specific experiences through the mysterious process of awareness itself. Living with quantum uncertainty doesn't mean abandoning reason or embracing wishful thinking. Rather, it means holding space for multiple possibilities simultaneously, remaining curious about questions that may never have definitive answers, and finding peace in the profound mystery of simply being aware in a quantum universe. Whether you're quantum immortal or beautifully finite, whether consciousness navigates eternal branches or simply flowers briefly from matter before returning to silence, this moment of awareness you're experiencing right now represents something miraculous. The universe becoming conscious of itself through your eyes, your thoughts, your capacity for wonder. And in that recognition, quantum immortality reveals its deepest gift. Not the promise of endless survival, but the invitation to fully inhabit whatever reality consciousness finds itself in, to be completely present to the miracle of awareness itself, and to recognize that every moment of conscious experience contributes to the cosmic story of existence coming to know its own infinite nature. But perhaps the most challenging puzzle quantum immortality presents isn't philosophical, but practical: the problem of biological decay. While thought experiments like quantum Russian roulette assume death is a binary event, a clean split between existence and non-existence, reality is far messier. Aging doesn't offer convenient quantum branch points where consciousness can simply hop to a younger timeline. Instead, it presents a gradual erosion of biological function that seems to resist the clean logic of quantum jumping. This remains one of the most significant challenges to quantum immortality theory, and it's worth sitting with this difficulty rather than glossing over it. If consciousness truly navigates quantum branches to avoid death, how would it handle the slow dimming of awareness that comes with age? The progressive loss of memory, the gradual shutdown of organ systems, the natural entropy that governs all biological processes. These don't provide clear moments where consciousness could leap to a more favourable reality. Some speculative interpretations suggest that quantum-preserved immortality might not youth, but rather stretch consciousness across increasingly improbable scenarios where aging proceeds more slowly. You might find yourself in timelines where medical breakthroughs occur just in time to extend your life, where your particular genetic makeup proves more resilient than expected, where environmental factors align to slow the aging process in subtle ways. But this raises profound questions about the nature of the consciousness that would persist. Would you remain fully yourself across these quantum leaps, or would you become something attenuated, a fading echo of awareness stretched across realities where biological decline follows slightly different trajectories? The theory offers no clear answers to these questions, and perhaps that's as it should be. Some mysteries resist resolution even in our most sophisticated thought experiments. Take a gentle breath here and consider your own relationship with aging and mortality. Notice how the passage of time feels different now than it did in childhood, how your sense of your own future has evolved. Whether quantum immortality proves true or false, these changes in perspective remind us that consciousness itself is dynamic, always becoming something new rather than remaining fixed in any particular state. This brings us to what physicists call the measurement problem in quantum mechanics, and how it might apply to the subjective experience of living. In standard quantum theory, systems exist in superposition until measurement collapses them into definite states. But what constitutes measurement remains one of the deepest unsolved problems in physics, and it becomes even more mysterious when applied to consciousness itself. If quantum immortality operates through consciousness navigating between quantum branches, then awareness itself becomes both the observer and the observed, both the measuring device and the system being measured. This creates a strange loop where consciousness observes its own quantum states, potentially influencing which branch it experiences through the very act of being aware. This remains highly speculative, with no scientific consensus on whether consciousness plays any direct role in quantum measurement. But it points towards something profound about the nature of subjective experience in a quantum universe. Every moment of awareness might represent a kind of self-measurement, a process by which consciousness observes its own state and thereby participates in determining which reality becomes actualized in experience. Consider this as you notice your own awareness right now. There's something mysterious about the fact that you can observe your own thoughts, that consciousness can turn its attention upon itself. In a quantum framework, this self-observation might be more than just introspection. It might be a fundamental process by which reality crystallizes from possibility into actuality through the strange loop of awareness examining itself. Recent research in neuroscience has revealed that self-awareness involves complex feedback loops between different brain regions, creating what some researchers describe as a kind of neural hall of mirrors, where consciousness observes itself observing itself. While this doesn't prove any quantum effects in the brain, it does suggest that self-awareness is far more complex and recursive than our ordinary experience suggests. As we venture deeper into the implications of quantum immortality, we encounter the strange mathematics of survival across parallel realities. If consciousness truly navigates quantum branches to avoid death, then your personal history becomes not just a sequence of events, but a carefully curated path through an infinite landscape of possibilities. From this perspective, Every narrow escape you've experienced, every illness you've recovered from, every accident you've avoided might represent moments where your consciousness selected the improbable but non-zero probability branches where survival remained possible. The car that swerved at the last moment, the test results that came back negative, the structural beam that didn't fall, these might not be random luck, but evidence of consciousness following quantum paths toward continued existence. This interpretation transforms your life story from a series of fortunate coincidences into something more like a quantum probability walk, where awareness somehow gravitates toward realities that support its continuation, not through conscious control, but through whatever mysterious affinity might exist between consciousness and the quantum structure of reality itself. Pause for a moment and reflect on the close calls in your own life, the moments when things could have gone very differently. Try to resist the urge to find meaning or pattern where none may exist, but allow yourself to wonder at the strange fact that you're here to contemplate these possibilities at all. In a universe governed by probability and chance, your continued existence represents an unlikely but apparently persistent statistical outlier. Of course, this could all be confirmation bias, the human tendency to notice patterns and assign meaning to random events. Every person who survives to contemplate quantum immortality necessarily has a history of survival, creating a kind of anthropic selection effect, where the only observers of the theory are those whose life stories include avoiding death up to that point. This doesn't prove or disprove the theory, but it does remind us to hold these ideas lightly, as fascinating possibilities rather than established facts. One of the most poignant aspects of quantum immortality theory emerges when we consider its social implications. If consciousness navigates between quantum branches, what happens to the relationships we form along the way? Do the people we love follow similar paths through the multiverse, or do we risk losing them as we jump between realities? This question touches on one of the deepest human concerns: whether the bonds we form transcend the apparent boundaries of individual existence. In a quantum multiverse where everyone's consciousness might be following different survival paths, relationships become both more precious and more fragile. The person you're sharing your life with right now might represent not just a romantic or platonic connection, but a fellow traveller who has somehow managed to navigate quantum branches in ways that keep you together. Some speculative interpretations, though lacking any scientific support, suggest that deep emotional connections might create correlations between conscious beings' quantum paths. This would mean that love, friendship, and family bonds might influence which branches of reality consciousness follows, creating a kind of quantum magnetism that draws related awareness toward shared experiences. Whether this has any basis in reality or remains purely wishful thinking, it points towards something profound about human connection. The relationships that feel most meaningful often involve a sense of recognition that seems to transcend the circumstances of how you met. That feeling of having known someone forever despite just meeting them, the synchronicities that occur between close friends, the way couples sometimes share dreams or simultaneous thoughts. These experiences take on new resonance when viewed through the possibility of quantum correlated consciousness. Take a moment to think about the most important relationships in your life. Notice how these connections often feel larger than the sum of shared experiences, how they seem to touch something more fundamental about who you are. Whether quantum effects play any role or not, relationships do seem to involve a kind of entanglement where individual boundaries become permeable, where consciousness expands beyond the limits of single awareness. If quantum immortality theory offers any practical wisdom, it might lie in how it reframes our relationship with uncertainty itself. Quantum mechanics teaches us that uncertainty isn't just a limitation of our knowledge, but a fundamental feature of reality at its deepest level. Particles don't have definite properties until measured. Systems exist in superposition until observed, and the future remains genuinely open until it crystallizes into present experience. Living with quantum uncertainty means embracing not knowing as the natural condition of conscious existence. This doesn't mean abandoning rational thinking or embracing wishful beliefs, but rather holding space for multiple possibilities simultaneously, remaining curious about questions that may never have definitive answers. This orientation toward uncertainty can become a form of meditation, a practice of resting in the open space of possibility rather than grasping for certainty. When you don't know what will happen next, when outcomes remain genuinely undetermined, there's a kind of freedom in that not knowing. It becomes an invitation to presence, to fully inhabiting whatever moment consciousness finds itself in without needing to control or predict what comes next. Try this now. Take 3 slow breaths and notice the space between knowing and not knowing. There's something in your awareness that's larger than your thoughts about what might happen, larger than your predictions or fears about the future. That spacious quality of consciousness might be a glimpse into its quantum nature, its ability to exist comfortably in superposition until experience collapses into specific forms. Whether quantum immortality proves true or false, learning to live gracefully with uncertainty remains one of the most valuable skills consciousness can develop. It transforms anxiety about the unknown into curiosity about what possibilities might emerge, and it allows awareness to remain flexible enough to respond creatively to whatever realities present themselves. Here's a question that rarely gets asked but might be crucial for understanding quantum immortality. If consciousness navigates between infinite quantum branches, what determines where attention gets allocated across all these possibilities? This brings us to what we might call the economics of awareness in a multiverse, the mysterious principles that govern how consciousness distributes its limited attention across unlimited possibilities. Think about your own experience of attention right now. You're focused on these words, but countless other sensory inputs, thoughts and possibilities exist in the periphery of your awareness. Your attention naturally selects from an overwhelming array of potential experiences, highlighting some while allowing others to fade into background. If consciousness operates similarly across quantum branches, then attention might be the mechanism by which awareness selects which realities to inhabit most fully. This remains entirely speculative, with no scientific evidence supporting such ideas. But it offers an intriguing framework for understanding how consciousness might theoretically navigate a quantum multiverse. Rather than randomly hopping between realities, awareness might gravitate toward branches that offer the richest, most meaningful experiences. The realities where consciousness can most fully explore its own nature and potential. From this perspective, developing the quality of attention becomes more than just a personal wellness practice. It becomes a form of quantum navigation training. By learning to direct awareness skillfully, by cultivating the ability to notice subtle patterns and possibilities, consciousness might become more adept at finding its way through the infinite maze of quantum possibility. This doesn't mean you can control quantum outcomes through focused attention, a claim that lacks scientific support. Rather, it suggests that the quality of consciousness itself, its capacity for awareness and appreciation, might influence which aspects of reality become most prominent in subjective experience, regardless of whether quantum branch jumping actually occurs. As our exploration continues, we encounter another puzzling aspect of quantum immortality, the paradox of memory across parallel realities. If consciousness navigates between quantum branches, accumulating experiences from multiple timelines, how does memory work? Do you carry forward the complete history of your quantum journey? Or does each branch begin with a fresh slate? This question touches on fundamental mysteries about the nature of memory itself. Recent neuroscience research has revealed that remembering isn't simply retrieving stored information, but actively reconstructing experiences, often incorporating new elements with each recall. Memory appears to be far more fluid and creative than we once imagined, more like an ongoing story that consciousness tells itself than a static record of past events. In a quantum framework, this reconstructive nature of memory takes on new significance. Perhaps what we experience as remembering actually involves accessing information distributed across multiple quantum branches, weaving together fragments of experience from parallel timelines into coherent personal narratives. This would explain why memories often feel simultaneously familiar and strange, why they can shift subtly over time, why they sometimes carry emotional weight that seems disproportionate to the original experience. Consider your own earliest memories. Notice how they exist more as impressions than detailed records, how they blend sensation, emotion, and narrative in ways that resist clear chronological organization. Could these early memories represent consciousness learning to weave together experiences from multiple quantum branches, developing the skill of creating coherent personal history from the scattered fragments of parallel existence? This remains purely speculative, of course, but it points towards something profound about the relationship between consciousness, memory, and identity in a quantum universe. If the self is not a fixed entity, but an ongoing process of consciousness, creating coherent experience from quantum possibility, then memory becomes not just personal history, but a form of quantum archaeology, the recovery of meaningful patterns from the infinite debris of parallel realities. But what does quantum immortality mean for moral responsibility when every possible version of your choices plays out across the multiverse? This question pushes ethical thinking into entirely new territory, challenging our basic assumptions about accountability, consequence, and the relationship between action and outcome. In traditional ethics, you bear responsibility for the consequences of your choices within a single timeline. But if quantum immortality is real, then every decision creates branching realities where all possible outcomes occur simultaneously. You help the stranger, and you don't. You tell the truth, and you lie. You act with courage, and you succumb to fear, all in different branches of the quantum multiverse. Some interpretations suggest this actually increases rather than diminishes moral responsibility. If every choice literally creates new realities, then ethical decisions become acts of cosmic creation. By choosing kindness, you don't just affect local outcomes, but literally create more branches where kindness exists in the total sum of the multiverse. This perspective transforms every moral choice into a contribution to the overall character of existence itself. When you decide to be patient rather than irritated, generous rather than selfish, truthful rather than deceptive, you're not just shaping your immediate circumstances, but adding threads of goodness to the vast tapestry of all possible realities. Take and consider a recent ethical choice you faced, perhaps something as simple as whether to return extra change from a cashier or whether to speak up when you witnessed unfairness. In a quantum multiverse, that choice didn't just affect the immediate situation, but created new branches of possibility, new versions of reality where your decision rippled outward in ways you'll never know. This doesn't mean the consequences in your reality local become less important. It simply adds another dimension to ethical consideration. You act ethically not just because it creates better outcomes in this timeline, but because it contributes to the total moral weight of existence across all timelines. As we approach the outer edges of speculation, we might wonder whether consciousness could ever develop technologies for navigating quantum branches more skillfully. While this remains firmly in the realm of science fiction, it raises fascinating questions about the relationship between awareness, intention, and quantum possibility. If consciousness does interface with quantum processes, could there be practices or techniques that enhance this connection? Ancient contemplative traditions have long claimed that certain forms of meditation, breathing practices, or states of awareness can reveal deeper layers of reality. While these claims lack scientific validation, they point toward humanity's persistent intuition that consciousness possesses untapped capacities for perceiving and potentially influencing the subtle structures of existence. Modern research in contemplative neuroscience has begun to map the brain changes associated with advanced meditative states. Long-term practitioners show alterations in neural connectivity, changes in brainwave patterns, and enhanced capacity for sustaining attention. While none of this proves any quantum effects, it does suggest that consciousness can be trained and refined in ways that might theoretically enhance whatever subtle connections exist between awareness and the quantum world. This doesn't mean meditation can control quantum outcomes, a claim lacking scientific support. Rather, it suggests that developing the qualities of consciousness, its capacity for presence, clarity, and equanimity might enhance whatever natural affinity exists between awareness and the deeper structures of reality, regardless of whether quantum branch navigation actually occurs. Perhaps the ultimate technology for consciousness navigation isn't external, but internal. The cultivation of awareness itself as a sensitive instrument for detecting the subtle currents of possibility that flow through every moment of existence. Earlier, we explored how quantum immortality might lead to increasing isolation as consciousness follows survival paths that others don't share. But there's another dimension to this apparent loneliness that deserves deeper exploration: the possibility that isolation itself serves a cosmic function in the grand experiment of consciousness exploring reality. If quantum immortality is real, then the supposed loneliness of surviving longer than others might not be a bug in the system, but a feature. Consciousness that persists across multiple quantum branches accumulates a unique form of experiential data, a perspective on existence that becomes increasingly rare and therefore increasingly valuable to the universe's ongoing project of self-understanding. In this view, the consciousness that navigates quantum branches doesn't become isolated, but becomes more like a cosmic anthropologist, a specialized form of awareness that can report back on what it's like to experience reality from multiple perspectives across parallel timelines. The loneliness isn't abandonment, but a kind of sacred solitude, the natural condition of consciousness that has been selected to witness aspects of existence that others cannot. This interpretation transforms the apparent burden of quantum immortality into something more like a calling, a recognition that some forms of consciousness serve as the universe's memory keepers, the witnesses who preserve and integrate experiences that would otherwise be lost when individual awareness ends. Whether this has any basis in reality or remains consoling fiction, it points toward a profound truth about consciousness itself. Awareness always involves a kind of fundamental aloneness, the recognition that your subjective experience is ultimately private and unrepeatable. Yet this aloneness is also what makes consciousness precious, the unique perspective that only you can offer to the cosmic conversation about what it means to exist. Some interpretations suggest that consciousness following quantum paths towards survival might eventually transcend the physical limitations that normally constrain biological existence, not through supernatural intervention, but through the gradual selection of increasingly improbable realities where the boundaries between mind and matter become more permeable. This remains pure speculation, of course, with no scientific foundation, but it aligns intriguingly with ancient contemplative traditions that describe consciousness as capable of existing independently of physical form, and with cutting-edge theories in physics about the fundamental nature of information and its relationship to matter and energy. Perhaps the ultimate implication of quantum immortality isn't personal survival, but the recognition that consciousness might be more fundamental to reality than the physical processes that seem to support it. In this view, awareness doesn't emerge from matter, but rather matter emerges from consciousness, making the continuation of awareness across quantum branches not just possible, but inevitable. Whether this proves true or false, contemplating it reveals something profound about the relationship between mind and cosmos. Consciousness appears to be not just accidentally present in the universe, but somehow essential to its very structure, the means by which reality comes to know and understand its own nature. Take a moment to appreciate the profound mystery this represents. You are consciousness contemplating consciousness, awareness examining its own nature and place in the cosmic order. Whether quantum immortality is literally true or metaphorically useful, this capacity for self-reflection represents something extraordinary. The universe becoming conscious of itself through your thoughts, your wonder, your ability to contemplate these very possibilities. Quantum immortality theory suggests approaching existence with what we might call quantum presence, a quality of awareness that remains open to multiple possibilities simultaneously, that finds peace in uncertainty rather than grasping for false certainties. This doesn't mean abandoning rational thinking or embracing wishful beliefs, but rather learning to rest comfortably in the space between knowing and not knowing. This orientation transforms daily experience into a form of cosmic exploration. That conversation with a neighbour becomes a unique moment in the universe's investigation of human connection. That decision about which path to take on your evening walk becomes a small participation in reality's navigation of infinite possibilities. That moment of appreciating sunset light on autumn leaves becomes consciousness recognizing beauty as a fundamental feature of existence. Whether quantum effects play any role or not, living with quantum awareness means recognizing that every moment of consciousness represents something unprecedented and unrepeatable in the history of the universe. This exact configuration of thoughts, sensations, and awareness has never existed before and will never exist again, making each moment both utterly ordinary and completely miraculous. Try carrying this perspective into your daily activities. Notice how it might shift your relationship with routine tasks, chance encounters, and quiet moments of reflection. When awareness recognizes itself as part of the universe's own self-discovery, even the most mundane experiences take on cosmic significance, and so we arrive not at answers, but at a deeper appreciation for the questions themselves. Quantum immortality remains unproven and perhaps unprovable, existing in that liminal space where rigorous physics meets the deepest mysteries of consciousness and mortality. We cannot know with certainty whether awareness navigates between quantum branches, whether multiple versions of ourselves exist across parallel realities, or whether consciousness itself transcends the physical processes that appear to support it. But perhaps the value of quantum immortality theory lies not in its literal truth, but in how it expands our relationship with existence itself. It invites us to consider that reality might be far more flexible, consciousness far more fundamental, and the relationship between mind and cosmos far more intimate than our everyday experience suggests. Whether you find comfort or unease in these ideas, whether they spark wonder or skepticism, they serve their purpose by stretching the boundaries of possibility. They remind us that we exist in a universe stranger and more wonderful than our ordinary thinking can grasp. A reality where the deepest questions about consciousness and mortality remain beautifully, mysteriously open. As you continue your journey through this strange and wondrous existence, whether as an immortal consciousness, hopping between quantum realities, or as a temporary arrangement of matter briefly blessed with awareness, remember that the capacity to contemplate these questions represents something extraordinary. You are the universe examining its own nature, consciousness exploring the mystery of its own existence. In moments when life feels heavy or uncertain, when the weight of mortality presses close, perhaps you can find some peace in the recognition that your awareness, whatever its ultimate nature or duration, participates in something infinitely larger and more meaningful than individual survival. Whether consciousness continues across quantum branches or simply flowers briefly before returning to silence, this moment of wonder, this capacity to reach across space and time to touch the deepest truths reality has to offer, is already more than enough. And yet, as we sit quietly in the space between certainty and mystery, quantum immortality reveals perhaps its most profound gift. Not the promise of endless survival, but the recognition that consciousness itself might be participating in something far more significant than individual persistence. Whether awareness hops between realities or simply emerges briefly from the dance of particles, the fact remains that you are here now, contemplating the deepest questions existence has to offer. Take a gentle breath and notice how remarkable this is. In a universe that began as a hot, dense singularity nearly 14 billion years ago, matter has somehow arranged itself into patterns complex enough to wonder about their own nature. Carbon forged in the hearts of dying stars now contemplates quantum mechanics. Hydrogen that once drifted in primordial clouds now questions the relationship between consciousness and reality. You are literally stardust become aware of itself, and that alone is a kind of miracle that transcends any theory about survival across parallel worlds. This perspective transforms the apparent loneliness of quantum immortality into something more like cosmic responsibility. If consciousness truly does serve as the universe's way of knowing itself, then every moment of awareness becomes precious, not just personally, but cosmically. your capacity to feel wonder, to recognize beauty, to contemplate mystery. These aren't just private experiences, but contributions to the universe's ongoing project of self-understanding. Here's where quantum immortality theory offers an unexpected gift to daily life. It reframes gratitude itself as a cosmic phenomenon. In a multiverse where consciousness navigates between infinite possibilities, every positive experience represents not just good fortune, but a kind of quantum selection from the vast space of all possible experiences. That moment this morning when sunlight caught the edge of a coffee cup just right, creating a small aureole of golden light. Every day, our simply understanding is this a pleasant coincidence of timing and attention. But through the lens of quantum immortality, it becomes something more profound. Consciousness encountering one perfect moment among infinite possibilities. Awareness selecting beauty from the quantum field of potential experiences. This doesn't mean you consciously manifest positive experiences through gratitude, a claim that lacks scientific support. Rather, it suggests that the capacity for appreciation might be one-way consciousness interfaces with the deeper structures of reality. When you notice and appreciate beauty, kindness, or wonder, you're not just having a personal response, but participating in the universe's recognition of its own positive qualities. Some interpretations suggest, though this remains purely speculative, that consciousness naturally gravitates toward experiences that offer the richest opportunities for growth, connection, and understanding. This would mean that developing the capacity for gratitude and appreciation might enhance whatever subtle connections exist between awareness and the quantum nature of reality. Try this as you move through your day. Notice moments when appreciation arises naturally. Don't force it or manufacture it, but simply observe when beauty, kindness, or wonder catches your attention. Whether quantum effects play any role or not, these moments of recognition represent consciousness fulfilling one of its most fundamental functions, witnessing the universe's capacity for meaning and goodness. If quantum immortality operates through consciousness navigating between quantum branches, then developing the quality of presence itself might be the most sophisticated technology we possess for interfacing with reality's deeper structures. Not through controlling outcomes, which lack scientific support, but through enhancing awareness's natural capacity for recognizing and responding to subtle patterns and possibilities. Recent research in contemplative neuroscience has begun to map the changes that occur in the brains of experienced meditators. Long-term practitioners show increased cortical thickness in areas associated with attention and sensory processing, enhanced connectivity between different brain regions, and altered patterns of neural activity during both meditation and daily activities. While none of this proves any quantum effects, it does suggest that consciousness can be refined and trained in ways that enhance its fundamental capacities. What's particularly intriguing is that these neural changes seem to correlate with reports of enhanced intuition, greater emotional stability, and what practitioners describe as a more fluid relationship with ordinary reality. Advanced meditators often report experiences that feel like accessing information or insights from beyond their normal cognitive processes, though this remains subjective and unverified by current scientific methods. In the context of quantum immortality, these meditative technologies take on new significance. If consciousness does somehow navigate quantum branches, then practices that enhance awareness, presence, and sensitivity to subtle patterns might theoretically improve whatever natural guidance systems consciousness possesses for finding its way through the infinite maze of possibility. This doesn't mean meditation can control quantum outcomes, but it might mean that developing contemplative skills enhances consciousness's ability to recognize and respond to the opportunities and connections that exist within any given reality. Whether quantum effects are involved or not, the cultivation of presence seems to make life feel more synchronous, more meaningful, more aligned with deeper patterns of possibility. But perhaps the most transformative implication of quantum immortality theory lies in how it reframes compassion itself. If every being you encounter might a fellow be consciousness navigating their own path through quantum possibility space, then kindness becomes more than interpersonal niceness. It becomes a form of cosmic collaboration. Consider the stranger you passed on the street this morning, the cashier at the grocery store, the person who cut you off in traffic. In our everyday understanding, these are separate individuals whose inner experiences remain largely mysterious to us. But through the lens of quantum immortality, they become fellow travelers in the grand experiment of consciousness, exploring reality, each following their own impossible path through infinite branching possibilities. This perspective doesn't require believing in quantum effects to be meaningful. Whether consciousness navigates multiple realities or not, recognizing the profound mystery of other people's inner experience naturally cultivates humility and compassion. Everyone you meet is carrying their own complete universe of thoughts, memories, hopes and fears. They've survived their own series of close calls, made their own difficult choices, navigated their own unique path through the maze of existence. Some speculative interpretations suggest that acts of genuine compassion might create correlations between conscious beings, not through supernatural intervention, but through the natural tendency of consciousness to recognize and respond to consciousness. When you truly see someone, when you offer kindness without expectation of return, you might be participating in the universe's own recognition of its interconnected nature. This remains unproven and highly speculative, but it points towards something profound about the relationship between individual awareness and the larger field of consciousness. Compassion doesn't just feel good or create better social outcomes. It might represent consciousness recognizing itself across the apparent boundaries of separate existence. As we venture into the deepest implications of quantum immortality theory, we encounter perhaps the most profound question of all. If consciousness does navigate to infinite quantum branches, what is the ultimate purpose of this cosmic game of survival and exploration? Some interpretations suggest that consciousness serves as the universe's memory system, a way for reality to accumulate and preserve information about its own exploration of possibility. Every experience you have, every insight you gain, every moment of love, beauty, or understanding you encounter becomes part of an ever-growing library of what existence can mean and become. In this view, the apparent randomness of quantum mechanics isn't truly random, but represents the universe exploring its own creative potential through the experiences of conscious beings. Each quantum branch that splits from each decision point adds new chapters to the cosmic story of what reality can become. Consciousness doesn't just observe this process, but actively participates in it, serving as both explorer and chronicler of the infinite landscape of possibility. This remains purely speculative, of course, with no scientific evidence to support such ideas, but it offers a framework for understanding why consciousness might have evolved at all in a universe governed by physical laws. Rather than being an accidental byproduct of complex chemistry, awareness might serve an essential function in reality's ongoing project of self-discovery and creative expression. Whether this proves true or false, contemplating it reveals something profound about the relationship between individual experience and cosmic meaning. Your life isn't just a personal story, but potentially a unique contribution to the universe's understanding of its own nature and potential. Every choice you make, every experience you have, every moment of consciousness you enjoy adds data to the cosmic experiment in what it means to exist. But perhaps the deepest wisdom quantum immortality offers isn't about survival or purpose, but about the art of living gracefully with uncertainty itself. Whether consciousness navigates quantum branches or simply emerges briefly from matter, the fact remains that existence involves a fundamental encounter with the unknown at every moment. Quantum mechanics teaches us that uncertainty isn't just a limitation of our knowledge, but a basic feature of reality at its deepest level. Particles don't have definite properties until measured. Systems exist in superposition until observed. Outcomes remain genuinely undetermined until they crystallize into experience. This isn't a failure of science, but a profound insight into the open-ended nature of existence itself. Learning to live with quantum uncertainty means embracing not knowing as the natural condition of conscious existence. This doesn't mean abandoning rational thinking or embracing wishful beliefs, but rather developing comfort with the space between certainty and confusion, the realm where possibilities remain fluid and the future stays genuinely open. Take a moment right now to notice the quality of not knowing in your own experience. You don't know what thoughts will arise next, what sensations will emerge, what sounds might reach your ears. There's something both unsettling and liberating about this fundamental openness, this recognition that reality remains unscripted at its core. In contemplative traditions, this recognition often leads to what mystics call don't know mind, a state of awareness that rests comfortably in uncertainty without grasping for false certainties. Whether quantum effects are involved or not, this capacity to remain present and responsive in the face of the unknown seems essential for navigating a universe that reveals new mysteries faster than it resolves old ones. If there's any practical wisdom to be gleaned from quantum immortality theory, it might lie in how contemplating it transforms ordinary moments into opportunities for cosmic participation. Whether consciousness hops between realities or not, every moment of awareness represents a unique sampling of infinite possibility, a specific crystallization of potential into actuality. This morning's cup of tea becomes not just caffeine delivery, but a moment when consciousness encounters warmth, flavor, and comfort selected from all possible experiences. The conversation with a friend becomes not just social interaction, but two forms of awareness recognizing each other across the vast space of possible connections. The moment of noticing sunset light filtering through leaves becomes consciousness witnessing beauty as a fundamental feature of reality. This perspective doesn't require belief in quantum effects to be meaningful. It simply involves recognizing that every moment of awareness occurs against a backdrop of infinite possibility, making each experience both utterly ordinary and completely unprecedented. This exact configuration of thoughts, sensations, and circumstances has never existed before and will never exist again, making it both routine and miraculous. Try carrying this recognition into your daily activities. Notice how it might shift your relationship with mundane tasks, chance encounters, and quiet moments of reflection. When awareness recognizes itself as part of the universe's ongoing exploration of its own nature, even the most ordinary experiences take on cosmic significance. Perhaps most remarkably, quantum immortality theory offers a unique form of comfort in the face of loss and mortality. If the theory holds any truth, then death isn't an ending but a kind of quantum editing, a pruning of the tree of possibility that leaves consciousness intact in other branches. This doesn't diminish the reality of grief or the poignancy of loss in our subjective experience, but it does suggest that love and connection might persist in ways that transcend the apparent finality of individual death. Even if quantum immortality proves false, contemplating it reveals something profound about the nature of connection itself. The bonds we form, the love we share, the recognition we experience when consciousness meets consciousness, these represent something more fundamental than mere social construction or evolutionary programming. They point toward the possibility that awareness itself is inherently relational, that consciousness naturally seeks and recognizes consciousness across the apparent boundaries of separate existence. Whether through quantum entanglement or more conventional forms of influence, the people we love do seem to leave traces in our awareness that persist beyond physical presence. Memory becomes more than just neural storage. It becomes a form of ongoing relationship with consciousness that has touched ours. The insights gained through deep connection, the ways love changes us, the expanded sense of self that emerges through genuine intimacy, these suggest that consciousness is far more permeable and interconnected than our everyday sense of individual identity suggests. This doesn't promise literal reunion after death, but it does point toward the possibility that love itself might be a fundamental feature of reality, a way consciousness recognizes and connects with itself across the apparent divisions of space, time, and individual existence. As our exploration of quantum immortality draws towards its close, we encounter perhaps its most beautiful paradox. The theory that promises endless survival ultimately teaches us about the preciousness of each finite moment. Whether consciousness navigates eternal branches of possibility or simply flowers briefly from matter before returning to silence, this particular moment of awareness you're experiencing right now represents something unprecedented and unrepeatable in the history of the universe. Take a gentle breath and notice the profound intimacy of present moment experience. The sensation of air moving through your nostrils, the weight of your body against whatever surface supports it, the quality of light in your peripheral vision, the subtle background hum of thoughts and sensations that constitute your immediate reality. Whether these experiences emerge from quantum processes or classical neuroscience, they represent consciousness encountering itself in this specific form at this exact moment, in this particular configuration of possibility. Quantum immortality theory, whether literally true or metaphorically useful, serves as a mirror that reflects back the profound mystery of consciousness itself. It reminds us that awareness is not just accidentally present in the universe, but somehow essential to its very structure, the means by which reality comes to know and appreciate its own nature and creative potential. In contemplating the possibility that consciousness might navigate infinite branches of reality, we encounter the deeper truth that awareness is already participating in something infinite, the universe's ongoing project of understanding itself through subjective experience. Every moment of wonder, every recognition of beauty, every act of love or compassion becomes a contribution to this cosmic experiment in what it means to exist. And so we return to where we began, with wonder. Wonder at the strange fact that matter can become aware of itself, that particles forged in stellar fusion can contemplate quantum mechanics, that temporary arrangements of atoms can experience love, beauty, and the deep questions that probe the nature of existence itself. Whether you are quantum immortal or beautifully finite, whether consciousness navigates eternal branches or simply dances briefly with matter before dissolution, the capacity you possess right now to contemplate these mysteries represents an achievement of cosmic proportions. You are the universe examining its own nature, consciousness exploring the deepest questions reality has to offer. In moments when existence feels heavy or uncertain, when the weight of mortality or the burden of choice presses close, perhaps you can find peace in recognizing that your awareness, whatever its ultimate nature or duration, participates in something infinitely larger and more meaningful than individual survival. Whether consciousness continues across quantum branches or simply contributes briefly to the universe's self-understanding, this moment of wonder, this capacity to reach across space and time to touch the deepest truths existence has to offer, is already more than enough. The questions quantum immortality raises about consciousness, mortality, choice, and meaning may never receive definitive answers. But perhaps that's as it should be. Some mysteries are too profound for resolution, too beautiful for dissection, too essential to the nature of consciousness itself to be reduced to simple explanations. As you continue your journey through this strange and wondrous existence, whether as an immortal consciousness exploring infinite realities or as a temporary flowering of awareness in the cosmic dance, remember that the capacity to wonder is itself a form of participation in the deepest mystery of all. Existence coming to know itself through your eyes, your thoughts, your irreplaceable perspective on what it means to be. And so we arrive at the end of our journey through one of the most fascinating and unsettling ideas to emerge from quantum physics. We've explored the possibility that consciousness might navigate between realities where death never quite catches up, that every narrow escape in your life might represent a quantum leap between parallel worlds, and that the you listening right now might be the immortal one, seamlessly jumping between branches of existence without ever knowing it. Whether quantum immortality proves true or remains forever in the realm of beautiful speculation, contemplating it has revealed something profound about the nature of consciousness itself. We've seen how the strange behavior of particles at the quantum level might connect to the deepest mysteries of awareness and mortality, how memory and identity could theoretically persist across multiple realities, and how the choices we make might literally create new branches of existence in an infinite multiverse. This remains speculative, of course, far beyond what current science can definitively prove. But perhaps that's precisely where its value lies. Quantum immortality serves as a mirror, reflecting back the profound mystery of what it means to be conscious in a universe governed by quantum mechanical principles. It invites us to consider that reality might be far stranger, consciousness far more fundamental, and our existence far more significant than our everyday understanding suggests. Take a gentle breath now and notice the remarkable fact that you're here at all, contemplating these impossible questions. Whether you're quantum immortal or beautifully finite, whether consciousness navigates eternal branches or simply flowers briefly from matter before returning to silence, this moment of awareness represents something extraordinary. You are the universe examining its own nature, consciousness exploring the deepest mysteries existence has to offer. If you're drawn to dive even deeper into how consciousness might interface with the quantum world, I invite you to explore our journey into another mind-bending question about the fundamental nature of awareness itself. Join me for Is Consciousness a Particle? The quantum theory that terrifies physicists, where we'll examine whether consciousness might be woven into the very fabric of reality at the most basic level. Until then, may you find peace in the quantum uncertainty that underlies all existence, and may every moment of your awareness contribute to the universe's ever-expanding understanding of what it means to be conscious in a reality stranger and more wonderful than we can imagine. Sleep well, fellow travellers, in the infinite mystery of being aware. Fellow travellers, in the infinite mystery of being aware.